welcome back to my channel. My name is Shaki and today we're going to be doing my July wrap-up, including the reading rush. It is now August. I am fully aware of this, but I do still need to make my July wrap-up apparent. I did read 10 books in July because of the reading rush, and I was slumping a little bit, but I knew that I would catch up with the reading rush. These are the 10 books that I managed to read in the month of July, and I'm really excited to talk about some of them because they're honestly some of my favourite books of all time. But then we have the other end of the spectrum, where we have some DNFs, which I haven't DNF'd a book in so long. We've also lost a couple, so we'll get to that in a minute. The first book that I managed to read in the month of July was I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman. This was the bookmark book pick of the month. I ended up giving it a 3.75 on Goodreads just because I thought it was a little bit more than average and it was a little bit cringy in places, but it was okay. This is basically about our main protagonist, Angel, who is absolutely obsessed with the Ark. And she travels from a long distance away to go and meet them with her friend Juliet. So we have Angel's perspective in the book, and we also have Jimmy's, who is coincidentally the lead singer of the Ark, the band that Angel loves. Jimmy is the band's front man, and he is also transgender. That is kind of very apparent in this book, and I actually really like that aspect. But Jimmy is starting to feel the kind of consequences of being famous, and he's starting to really not want to be famous anymore. Fame isn't all what it seems, and Angel learns this the very hard way when she's bumped into the Ark to try and save them from loads of crazed fans. That happens quite a lot, just on coincidence. It made some really interesting comments on fandom culture and how shipping is really harmful to some members of bands as well. In saying that, I do agree with the bookmark girls in the fact that fangirls as a whole were represented as these mean, obsessive creatures in this book, and I don't really agree with that because we do get the interchanging chapters from Angel and from Jimmy. I think the structure of this was really interesting because you obviously get point of view from Angel and point of view chapters from Jimmy as well, being in the band, and it was really interesting how their mindsets differed in the same situations as well. Again, I also loved how Jimmy was a trans main character and he was very open about his struggles with being trans. I think the problems that I had with this came from how fangirls are represented in this book as obsessive and mean and cruel, and also with the fact that this storyline went in so many different places than I was expecting. I'm glad that I read it because it opened my eyes to some problems in the fandom world, but fangirls aren't this obsessive. We do have lives, but it's just the fact that this nerd culture, this fandom culture, is what keeps us going at the end of the day, and I think that wasn't well executed in this, not really. The next book that I read in the month of July outside the reading rush was Pan's Labyrinth by Guillermo del Toro and Cornelia Funk. Oh my god, this book! Ah! If you didn't know, I'm absolutely obsessed with Pan's Labyrinth. Like, I have a Pale Man tattoo, and I'm absolutely obsessed with the movie of Pan's Labyrinth. So when I found out that the book was being re-released, I almost crapped myself. Although I do love Pan's Labyrinth, I did give this a 4.5, not quite a 5, but we'll go into that in just a second. If you're unfamiliar with the story of Pan's Labyrinth, it is basically about a main character, a child called Ophelia, who is moving in with Captain Vidal, who is a substitute for Franco, but we won't say anything about that, with her mother, Carmen. Carmen is very heavily pregnant with the captain's baby, and so they go and live with him across Spain, and Ophelia really doesn't want to go. So to kind of escape all of this everyday dystopia, Ophelia gets sucked into a fairy tale when she sees fairies, and they lead her to the Fawn, which is on the front cover. The Fawn then tells her she is actually Princess Moana, Princess of the Underworld, and her father is waiting for her to return. But to return, she has to complete 3 tasks to prove that she hasn't fallen into the mortal world. These 3 quests are going into the Toad's lair and retrieving a key, going into the Pale Man's lair and not being fucking eaten, Ophelia, and also sacrificing her innocent brother. Will she or won't she? God fucking knows, this book is so wild. This is described as a fairy tale for adults. Even the film is just so grotesque and just disgusting, it's kind of weird. Don't go into this thinking it's going to be a really big fairy tale, it's not. It's based off the Spanish Civil War and mythology, and it's just really, really, really fucking amazing. Things I liked about Pan's Labyrinth. I loved how much they stuck to the original story. Like, I could literally picture the movie in my mind, maybe because I studied it and I know it so well. They didn't change that many lines or any plot points in it. They literally wrote the book of the movie, like based off of the movie. A few lines here and there, but nothing really changed. We do have these amazing illustrations and like add-on stories like the Pale Man and the Fawn falling in love and how the Toad came to be in the tree. We kind of also got some clarification on some fan theories that come from the movie, and so it just kind of extended what we already know about the movie, and I love it so much, which is why I would probably recommend for you to watch the movie first and then read the book, because I don't think the other way would have that many gratifications. But if you're going into this loving Pan's Labyrinth already, they just got it so right for me personally. It had the same ambience as the movie, this grotesque and just chilling story of a girl who's trying to escape her evil stepdad, and I absolutely love it so much. It fills my heart with so much joy. The only two gripes I had with this is the fact that it's heavily based in Spain. Actually, the entire movie is a foreign film because there's subtitles and it is in Spanish. Like, they still speak Spanish in this occasionally, like Mercedes still says si senor, and he's still called the Capitan because that's captain in Spanish. I feel like the Spanish words really stick out like a sore thumb because the rest of the words are English, and I don't really feel like that was a good decision on the editor's part. I also do feel like the stories were kind of placed really sporadically and they weren't thought about where they were being placed. Like, it was still learning about the history of the Pale Man at the end scene, and I don't really know how that was relevant. Surely that should have been when Philly was in the Pale Man's lair. The new stories, although they were good and they added to my knowledge and love of the story, they were placed a little bit randomly sometimes, and I do wish it was kind of like cleaned up a little bit. But I love this no matter what. I love this so much, and I feel like anyone who enjoyed the movie will absolutely love this. The next two reads I have unfortunately lost. Yes, you heard it here first, folks. I have lost two of my books because we went on holiday to Devon, and that entails a 4-hour-long car journey, and so I took loads of my Reading Rush books. Coming back from Devon, I have left books in there like fucking 300 miles away. So I have lost two of the books in this wrap-up, and I'm very sorry, but what can you do? I can't exactly go, here's a book. So we're just gonna live with the fact that I have lost them. The first out of two books that I have lost is Saga Volume 3. So I'm just gonna hold up Saga Volume 2. It doesn't really make a difference, but I did read Saga Volume 3 before I read my books for the Reading Rush. I'm still not 100% on rating or describing graphic novels without spoiling them, but this is basically about Marco and Elena, who are on other sides of a war in space, and they have a baby and a love affair. I love this comic series so much. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. And that's all you really need to know. Now we are coming on to Reading Rush reads. Now, if you don't know what the Reading Rush is, what are you doing? It used to be called the Booktubeathon, and it is a week-long readathon dedicated to just reading as much as you can, rushing to read, and fulfilling certain prompts and challenges. This year was a little bit different because we had a website to go for and badges, and it was so much fun. I managed to collect all the badges for the Reading Rush, which is unbelievable, and I managed to complete all of the challenges as well, which is also pretty unbelievable. The second book that I lost was Geekerella, which was coincidentally my first book of the Reading Rush. I gave it a 3.85 just because I really did enjoy it, but I'm not really one that's big on retellings, and if you didn't know, that Geekerella is, again, like I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman, is in two perspectives, one from a fan of a TV show and the second from an actor in said TV show. So it alternates between the points of views, and I find that really interesting in books, especially when it's coming from a fan point of view and a famous person that they're fangirling over. So it follows the Cinderella storyline, and the ball that she's aiming to go to is actually a cosplay competition, and if she wins, she gets to go to the set and meet the actors and stuff like that. And basically her and the actor who is portraying her favourite character on the show, they aren't friends, they don't like each other, but then they start liking each other when they start messaging each other about knowing who each other are, and they start to really gain a good bond. Which I thought was really sweet towards the end. I know a lot of people don't like this about Geekerella, but I absolutely loved how much it stuck to the original story. I like the fact it was like a 21st century adaptation of a really basic and classic story, manipulated around fangirl culture. I absolutely loved that, and I could relate to it much more than I thought I would. I do, however, think that it was cliche at times, and I do feel like the characters went through a little bit of an insta-love, and I do feel like there wasn't enough time for there to properly be a dislike to lovers relationship. I feel like it was all done very fast. Another thing that I didn't really enjoy about this book was the fandom gatekeeping. The main character, Elle, often pretends that she's a better fan than everyone else because she's seen all the episodes, she's a really good cosplayer, and she's just better than everybody. And I hate that about fandom sometimes. And I'm so glad that the toxic mentality that is fandom gatekeeping was challenged. It was kind of like a character development, but I still hated it at the beginning anyway. I got interrupted by my boyfriend ringing me, so I'm not sure when I got to with Geekerella, but I enjoyed it. It was okay. I did have a little bit of problems with it, but all in all, it was a really good experience, and I gave it a 3.85. Now we're actually on to books that I own and that I have with me. What a joy! So Geekerella by Ashley Poston, it completed the challenge of me reading a book with a purple cover. And the next challenge for the Reading Rush was to read a book that I haven't, and I was meant to read last year. That was Little and Lion by Brandy Colbert, because my boyfriend, who just interrupted me by ringing me, gave me this for Christmas last year, and I still haven't read it. So I needed to read it ASAP. I gave this a 3.75 just because I liked it initially, but every time I picked it back up again, I had a different feeling about it. So this is basically about Suzette, who comes home from boarding school to take care of her brother who was diagnosed with bipolar. Unfortunately for them, they both start to fall for the same girl, and it's kind of just a whole weird love triangle between Suzette, her brother, and this girl, and I just... things I liked about Little Line were the writing and the structure. Brandy Colbert is so talented. I flew through this because the writing was seamless and it flowed so well. I have read a lot of Goodreads reviews and reviews in general of this book, and the fact that a lot of bipolar people who have been diagnosed say that the bipolar rep in this is incredibly accurate, and I will actually take that for that. Like, you know, I don't have bipolar, I haven't been diagnosed. I'll take that for what it is. I also really enjoyed the sibling relationship in this. Suzette and her brother have a unique relationship where they love each other and they hate each other in a sibling way, and I can really relate to that. And I thought it was really interesting how a YA book explored that, because I haven't seen that much of that. I do feel like this book was doing way too much at once, because it had some comments about bisexuality, it had some on lesbianism, it had some on race and mental health. I just feel like if Brandy Colbert had focused on one sole thing and made the plot driven by that instead of loads of different things, I think it would have been more concise and tied together in a better book overall. I do also think, saying that, the bisexuality rep, although the bipolar one and the race one are good as much as I know, although I don't struggle with those two things, bisexuality is one of the things I do have a very close, you know, attachment to, because I do identify as bisexual. And I do think the bi rep in this is quite questionable in my humble opinion. The tagline makes it hint at it's like a female-female romance going on, but it's not really. She actually dates a guy for most of the book. I love the comments about labels in this as well. I do overall think the bi rep in this is a bit questionable in the fact that she was experimenting and now she feels bad. Don't be discouraged by that. Read it and make your own opinions. At the end of the day, these are just mine and you might actually really like it. This next book fulfilled the challenge for me of reading a book in the same spots, and that is Heartstopper Volume 2 by Alice Oseman. So this is again another graphic novel, and I read this all in one sitting. I read this on the beach, and coincidentally they go to the beach in this graphic novel, and I was really fucking pleased. I do really enjoy the Heartstopper comics. I also read Volume 1 not long ago, and I'm just waiting for Volume 3 to come out. But this was really cute. It's about two gay teens that are coming out and living life and being in a relationship. They start networking with other gay teens as well. In this graphic novel, they meet lesbians and bisexuals and trans people, and I absolutely loved it. It was so gender inclusive and so inclusive in terms of sexuality and race as well. I loved it. It was truly absolutely amazing. No bad things to say about it. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I cried on the beach. Nothing more needs to be said. I was right in thinking in my TBR video, Unwind by Neil Shusterman was Neil Shusterman's first book. So I read Unwind, kinda, by Neil Shusterman to fulfill the challenge of this, to read an author's first book. I DNF'd this at page 140, and I feel so bad about it. No one feels as bad for DNFing this as I do. This is basically about a near dystopian society where there is a civil war between pro-lifers and pro-choice, and it kind of makes the two sides come to a conclusion that they both agree on. And that is the process of unwinding. So for the first 13 years of life, you can't unwind or abort a child because pro-lifers don't like it. But then from the ages 13 to 18, really randomly, you can do something to your child called unwinding, which is basically the process of like killing the child, but like keeping their spirit and like giving their organs and body parts to other people. I'm not really sure how that worked. And it was never actually exclusively explained in the book how that worked, but you kind of had to just accept that's what was happening. I absolutely loved the characters in this. I loved how diverse they were and how there was loads of different points of views, because unwinding can affect anyone. The story just didn't ultimately make sense. As I said earlier, the process of unwinding and why specifically parents had their children for 13 years and then chose to unwind them and that was suddenly okay, wasn't explained at all. Also, in my fucking booktubeathon vlog that I did of this, I pissed myself off so much because I couldn't think of the past tense of unwind. I kept saying unwinded, so it's unwound, guys. It's unwound. I had a lot of questions that needed to be answered that weren't being answered, and I feel like with a fantasy book like it is and how much depth it has, it's a series, and just I feel like none of the questions that I had were answered, and that is so important with world building. It makes sense to me, and I'm having a really hard time accepting that I didn't like this as much as I was anticipating, because I loved Scythe, I love Challenge Deep, and I just don't like this, and it's really unfortunate, and I'm really sorry, but I didn't like it, I DNF'd it. End of story. End of discussion. Next we have another 5-star read, and I am literally bursting to talk about this. I am so ready to just word vomit at you. Like, honestly, I'm so ready for that diarrhea to come out of my fucking mouth. That sounds rude and wrong. I wish I didn't say that, but I did, so I'm keeping it in. This book for me fulfilled the challenge of reading a book with non-human main characters. So I picked The Kingdom by Jess Rothenberg. Oh my god, what a fucking hidden gem! I read the back of this in Waterstones and was immediately hooked. And so I bought it and I read it for the reading rush because it has non-human main characters, which I will explain in a minute. And I loved it. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it thoroughly. And I swear to God, if not everyone on BookTube is raving about this, I'm gonna kill you all. If you're watching this and this fucking appeals to you in any slither of way, buy it, because so many fucking audiences is going to be so pleased with this and the story it brings. I just can't wait for other people to read it. I'm so happy that I've read this. So this is based in the kingdom, as the title says, where fairy tales are not only encouraged but are made to happen. And they're made to happen through fantasists who are half android, half human girls who are literally made to do fairy tales. Like, they are fucking made to do that. This ultimately follows Anna, who commits a crime of killing someone, a client that she's supposed to be like a fantasist with. And she starts to feel all of these emotions like love and grief and missing people that have passed away or been taken away from her. And oh my god! It has really good social commentary on what it means to be human. It also has a really good social commentary on women and how they are designed to please men in this world, and it's fucked up. There's a court case hearing in this, so it's kind of like mixed media format a little bit. It breaks up the chapters quite nicely, actually. I really like that aspect, because obviously Anna has committed a crime, she's killed somebody, and she's being trialed for it. I love this storytelling technique where you're seeing something that happens in the future, but you're reading alternating perspectives and points of views in chapters on the events leading up to that thing happening. I'm just a sucker for it. It's a big trope that I absolutely love. I also love the biggest trope in here, worlds that seem utopian but actually dystopian. So who wouldn't want fairy tales to happen in the kingdom? Who wouldn't walk into a place and know that all their biggest dreams are going to come true? But they're actually really corrupt, and the fantasists are really fucking struggling, and it's just really dystopian, and it's actually, oh, it's so good. Anti-heroes are morally grey characters, yeah, sure, I'll take them any day, but morally grey worlds? Fucking amazing. And the way it's written is just phenomenal. Like, literally, oh my god. I have nothing bad to say about this. Absolutely nothing. I read it in such a quick time and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was absolutely perfect. No faults whatsoever. The next challenge that I completed in the reading rush was to watch and read a book to movie adaptation. And I decided to rewatch and reread Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I read this about a year ago in a 24-hour readathon that I did, and I loved this. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, but unfortunately, this time with a bit of a different reading experience. I lowered my rating to a 4 stars, and I couldn't be more disappointed in myself. So if you didn't know and been hiding under a rock, Ready Player One is basically about James Halliday, who creates the Oasis. In the Oasis, we have Wade Watts, which the book follows his journey, and Wade Watts just spends the entirety of his time within the Oasis with his friends, even going to school, going to libraries, anything that you can name, he probably does in the Oasis. Everything is hunky-dory until one day James Halliday is pronounced dead, and he releases a video. He says that he has hidden many Easter eggs and keys within the Oasis for players to find, and the first person who cracks all the codes and does all of the Easter eggs, goes through all of the gates, wins custody of the Oasis and also everything that James Halliday has earned over his lifetime. Obviously, Wade Watts is a struggling nerdy teenager and he really wants the prize, and so him and his friends go out and, you know, get the Easter egg and James Halliday's money. Holiday. Fucking same word. I absolutely love all the 80s game references in this book. I still also really like the idea of the Oasis, but I don't feel like it was well executed because it was so slow. Like, it's such a slow pace, and I didn't really recognise that or like take that for what it is the first time when I was reading it. Ernest Cline also has this thing where he info dumps literally every single second. Literally info dumps, literally to the T. Something I also noticed the second time round was how possessive Parzival is over Artemis, and he doesn't even really know her that well. I do have to say that I like the Ready Player One movie more than the book, because I feel like the movie just focuses more on the friendships that come from the Oasis, and in this, Wade spends most of the time alone getting the Easter egg. I do prefer the movie to this, sorry not sorry, but they're both really good equally, and if you're a nerd like me, you should go and watch it and read it because it's a great experience. And the last book that I read in the reading rush, and ultimately the last book I read in July because I had a really long break after this, was Jack of Hearts and Other Parts by Elsie Rossett. This was my challenge for reading a book with more than 5 words in the title. This is basically about Jack, who is an openly gay teen at his high school. He's very open about his sexual health and his sexual history. So his friend is studying journalism, and she kindly asks him if he will do a sex column for her just for a few weeks, just so she can get a little bit of like something different on her blog. So Jack agrees, but as soon as he starts to post these advice columns online, he starts to get really threatening, secret admirer messages that actually turn out to be really homophobic and really damaging to Jack's safety. So overall, I gave it a 4 stars, and I'm still really unsure of the rating of this because I liked it, but not enough to give it a 4. But at the same time, if I like anything less, it's a little bit too less. I really like Jack's advice column. I think he gives really good advice because we see the query and Jack's answer in full and in their entirety, and I really, really enjoyed that aspect. It really caught me off guard. It was so weird at the start, and I do think the word cock was used way too much. I think that's just a personal preference. I hate the word so much. And it was just used every other word in every other sentence. But I do think overall this will help gay teens figure out who they are, even straight teens be more educated on gay issues and queer issues in general, and just kind of go in with the punches and figure out who you are. People have rated this down because it shows he's just having sex. Teens are going to have sex no matter what you tell them, unless they're asexual, which is totally valid. But they're going to have sex, they're going to do things they're not supposed to. Just ensure that they have a safe contact. You, supposed to be, you're the fucking parent, when things go wrong or if they have any questions, just to do things safely and to do things where they're not going to get hurt. Teenagers have sex. Get with the fucking program, grandma. But yeah, really enjoyed this. It's going to help a lot of people, and I can't wait for more people to read it and review it. There are all of the books are in July and my opinions of them. If you liked it, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. I have been on the border of 300 subscribers on this channel for so long. Thank you so much for watching my July wrap up, and I'll see you next month for another one, or I'll see you next week for a brand new video. Bye!